So, if what happened is what I think just happened, Russia's level of depravity has reached a new record low. I'll explain that in just a moment, but let's get into what's happened day over day. So, there's 1,860 Russian casualties. So, if I look at this and I click on 1860, now let's look at the rolling averages 1,500 casualties in December, and then we add the 1850, and then we go back up. It's now up to 1517 as opposed to 1500. So that's raising the average casualty rate for the month, and that makes it the fourth highest of the year. If we look over here, the highest was just yesterday, and the fourth highest is today. So let's keep going. Zelensky says that Russia launched over 550 guided bombs, nearly 550 attack drones, and more than 20 missiles in the last week. It's just unbelievable what the Russians are doing. Just continue to pound, not just on the front line, but continue to pound civilians in their homes. Okay. The Air Force, the Ukraine's Air Force reported on a Shahed drone attack overnight. Out of 113 Shaheds launched, 57 were shot down, 56 were suppressed by electronic warfare. So 57 being shot down, generally speaking, shot down means it's not really hitting a target. Suppressed, it could go off some direction and not hit its intended target, but it could also hit an actual building or something along those lines. Okay. I've never seen this before, but Noel reports has good morning. Due to internet issues and dependence on only a mobile phone, there will be no sit rep of yesterday. I hope to be able to post another sit rep this evening. Apologies for the inconvenience. We got to remember that the power is very spotty, and so reporting is hard to get to sometimes, and that's pretty difficult to work in that kind of environment. Okay, consequences of enemy drone attacks eliminated in Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia rescue workers eliminated the consequences of drone attacks. 30 rescue workers were involved. So again, even if you suppress things, like 100 some odd drones, half of them were shot down, but half of them are suppressed and they could still go into things. On the night of December 20th, the enemy attacked Zaporizhia with unmanned aerial vehicles. As a result of enemy aggression, 3 women and a 12-year-old boy were injured, and so firefighters were putting that out. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is a new low. It's hard to believe that nobody actually talks about this after a hospital's hit or something along these lines. But this is the second, maybe third oncology or cancer hospital that has been hit. Russian forces targeted an oncology clinic in Kazan last night with 2 KAB guided bombs. Video of the attack appeared on Russian Telegram channels, right? So they're filming hitting cancer hospitals. Like, just understand that that's what they're doing. Local authorities report that there were no casualties, but significant damage to the site, but it gets worse. So this is some images of it. And then if we look at this, 2 Russian guided bombs struck a medical center in Ukraine's frontline city of Kazan, causing significant damage. So there's 2. They're intending to hit this particular target with guided, like, this is what the goal is to hit this. But if we look at the Euromaidan press and we look at the article about it, Russia bombs Kazan Cancer Hospital. Radiation safety checks are ongoing. Now, I don't know, but are you trying to do this to get radiation out? I mean, it's bad enough that you're hitting this thing to begin with, which is a war crime, or that cancer patients won't get their treatment, but to potentially leak radiation, is that the goal? Russian forces launched an airstrike on cancer treatment center in Kazan with 2 guided bombs. Here's some images. Here's the Russians releasing themselves the video of the strikes. And then it says this: local authorities conducted radiation safety checks as oncology centers often house radiation equipment for treatments. Measurements show gamma radiation levels in the city and region match natural background with 12 to 13 microgen per hour, officials stated. They also added that they continue to monitor radiation levels. Is that the goal? Okay, so let's shift gears here. I saw this yesterday, and so Anna from Ukraine had this video out yesterday, and we're just going to listen to the first 30 seconds because it's actually a pretty funny way of approaching how we're going to look at what's happening
Hello
next.
guys, and today we continue our Russian geography lessons, during which we discover more about their locations based on the destructions of military objects there. And our
So it's a funny way to frame it, but yeah. So she's talking about Murmansk, and that's all the way up here. I didn't know where it was. It's all the way up here on the border of Finland, up near the Arctic, Sweden, Finland, Russia, and yeah, that's way up there. Okay, and then so that was yesterday, and then today, Ukraine deep strikes on Russian territory, now a regularity. Russia's Kazan targeted in today's early morning attack. Well, you'd have to ask yourself, where is Kazan? And so if we're going to look at where Kazan is, it's up here. Here's Ukraine, here's Moscow, Kazan's all the way out there. That's where they're targeting. So that's pretty impressive as well. Now, in a dawn attack, two precise strikes on an office building in the Russian city of Kazan, approximately 10,000 kilometers from Ukraine. So this article from the Kyiv Post was talking about an office building, and then in the Kyiv Post we're seeing this drone strikes, high-rise building in Kazan, but it's talking about it a little bit differently, and I'm not sure. So there's a fog of war. We can't tell exactly what's happening here. At least 8 drones attacked Republic of Tatarstan, Russia, some of which hit residential buildings. Okay, so now we're not supposed to be hitting residential buildings, like an office building. If there's a legitimate function, that's okay. So you don't want to do to civilians what they're doing to your civilians, including a 32-story luxury building in Kazan located 1,000 kilometers from the front lines. Russian media reports the drones damaged buildings in Kazan, the capital of Tatarstan Republic, with a population of 1.3 million, but there were no victims, local officials said. Monitoring channels report that the drones flew into the building as a result of Russian electronic warfare. So was that targeted something, or was that electronic warfare knocking it into it? I'm not sure exactly what the answer is, but here's what I do know. Loud explosions reported near the gunpowder plant in Kazan. Okay, so that makes sense of why they might be targeting Kazan. Local authorities claim the bangs are linked to scheduled tests of the facility. Sure, that is the scheduled test, and that happens to coincide with when drones from Ukraine were attacking. A state emergency has been declared for government bodies and emergency services due to the drone attack. Igor Shushko says Kazan is home to Tupolev Aircraft Factory, military helicopter factory, large munitions gunpowder factory, optical mechanical factory, among other defense sector plans and research facilities. So, yeah, so I'm going to just state for the record, if Ukrainians are targeting civilians, which I don't believe that they were, but if they are, that's wrong, shameful, and it's a war crime, and they shouldn't do that. But I don't think that that's what was happening here. I think they're trying to attack military objects. Okay, let's go to the front line here. Zaporizhia region, one successfully repelled attack. One attack successfully repelled. Kharkiv direction, 1 combat engagement. Kherson direction, our defenders repelled 4 attacks. On the Bakhmut front, Donetsk region, Ukrainian defenders repelled 6 attacks. Kupiansk direction, invaders attacked defenders 11 times. Lyman direction, invaders made 14 attacks. Kharkiv direction, 20 attacks. And Vromika, 25 combat engagements. Across direction, invaders led 41 assaults. Now, these numbers are so high, partly because, like when we're looking at these numbers here, partly because 1850, right? And Andrew Perpetua was talking about how, like, I don't think there's a big difference between what Ukrainians and Russians lose, generally speaking, except that one's on the attack and the other's on the defense. And so the numbers are so high for the Russians right now because the Ukrainians tend to be defending more than attacking. When they go on the attack, they lose casualties in higher numbers. And I think that's pretty fair. Russian forces recently advanced in Kursk Oblast near Kupiansk with Toretsk and Vuldahar direction, or within Toretsk and the Vuldahar direction. The Kremlin continues to scapegoat Kursk Oblast civil servants for its failure in responding to Ukraine's Kursk Oblast incursion. So they're blaming the local authorities for the military incursion into Kursk, which is interesting. Now, today is Saturday, December 21st. Within 1 month, by January 20th, they're supposed to have pushed all the Ukrainians out of Kursk. I would be curious, put the odds of what you think will happen with that in the comments below, whether that'll actually succeed. Putin wants it badly, but he keeps putting his forces around Pokrovsk rather than around Kursk in order to actually drive them out of Kursk. I don't think that's going to happen. President Putin announced his intention to orient Russia's political and ideological priorities for 2025 around Russian veterans. Sure, he did. Okay, so he's going to create more problems for the veterans by doing this. I don't think they're going to be driven out of Kursk. Meanwhile, the acting governor of Kursk region in Russia, he is clearly explaining to the residents that no one is going to rebuild their houses at public expense because they still have a special military operation going on and shells cost money. The state will not cover 100%. We won't compensate for destroyed houses, not because we don't want to. Imagine how many villages, settlements, roads, and so on have been destroyed. Schools, hospitals, polyclinics, stores, pharmacies, your homes. At what expense are we going to restore all this? So we have the special military operation going on. We've got the land to liberate, and pardon me, every shell costs money. Wow, every shell costs money, so, sorry, you're on your own. Okay, so that's where the Russians are with this. Now, in contrast, this guy's a real hero. This is Andrew Perpetual posting this. This guy's a real hero. He drives a truck delivering water to people in his community out of a sense of duty and love for his people. When he sees homes on fire, he gets out his fire hose and helps put out the fire. He says he wants to do more, but there's not enough time in a day. Like, wow. Everybody can do their part, whatever that part may be. And he concludes, it's people like him who we fight for. He's doing everything he can under extreme personal danger to do what he feels is right, and he deserves our help. Absolutely, he deserves our help. Okay, I didn't talk about this yesterday or the day before, but I wanted to. Ukrainian company now assembles the first fully domestic FPV drone. Defense contractors drone has completely assembled of Ukraine's first fully domestic produced FPV drone featuring local components to reduce China supply dependence. So that's actually a really good step forward. We're going to talk more about drones later on today, and you want to be looking for that. This is really important. And there's actually two things that are coming about drones today. So stay tuned. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a little bit. All right, we're going to wrap up with this. Prophecy fulfilled. There's a Russian woman who drowns a psychic who predicted her return to prison. Okay, if that's not weird enough, let's hear the story. A chilling story from Russia. A woman in Sverdlovsk region, I probably slaughtered that name, invited her friends for a casual gathering, which took a dark turn when one of them, who is a self-proclaimed psychic, predicted her future imprisonment. Okay, so the psychic predicted her imprisonment. So enraged, the woman assaulted her friend, dragged her to a nearby pond, and drowned her. Ironically, the prophecy came true. A court sentenced the perpetrator to 9.5 years in prison and ordered her to pay 2 million rubles in compensation to the victim's family. But shouldn't the psychic have seen that coming? Like, shouldn't she have been like, I can't see anything here. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.